Welcome to First Church and Parish in Dedham. I'm Rali Weaver, and this is our Tiny Desk Worship. This is October 4th, 2020, and we begin with our centering thought. If kingdoms wish to move quickly, they must go alone. If they wish to go far, we must go together. That's E.Y. Lester. We will now begin our prelude, played by Matt Meyer, improvisation on a tar. Okay, stop it and let's see how. Good morning. It's so good to be together. I'm here on Lake St. Catherine in Wells, Vermont, just enjoying some last days or beginning days of autumn, which is why I'm sharing with you some of the autumn leaves that are littering the yard and the porch. We want to thank Matt Meyer today. He's performing some of our music. Some of you may remember him. My second year here, I invited him here to do a drumming workshop, and we had a lot of fun, and that was great. And hopefully someday we'll invite him back again for that. We performing some of our music. Some of you may remember him. My second year here, I invited him here to do a drumming workshop, and we had a lot of fun, and that was great. And hopefully someday we'll invite him back again for that. And now we have a special announcement from Carol Dixon-Nodden.
I'm Carol Dixon, and Rali asked me to speak for a moment about the Dedham Food Pantry. The pantry was founded 30 years ago, and first I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their work and contributions to the pantry. This church has contributed to the pantry in so many ways and continues to do so. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Right now, the pantry is responding to the pandemic by providing clients with pre-bagged food. So what the clients get is they get 2 bags of non-perishables, 1 bag of dairy, 1 bag of frozen, and 1 bag of produce. So we see about 60 to 70 clients on every Saturday, and on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month, the police, the Council on Aging, and the Dedham Housing Authority come to the pantry and pick up that same amount of food for 70 seniors in town. So If you can imagine, that's a lot of bags. And they're all pre-packed at the pantry. So one way that you could help the pantry, if you have time and are comfortable, is to help with the bagging. It's actually a lot of fun. And we now are housed in Panera, the former Panera site. So it's a lot bigger. So there's a lot more room to spread out. So the bagging times happen on every Thursday afternoon and on the second and fourth Tuesday in the afternoon. So if you think at all you might be able to help us, look at our website, dedhamfoodpantry.org. But there are other ways you can help too. We have opportunities to unload trucks if you don't want to go to the gym, help with some unloading. And on Saturday mornings from 8:30 or 8 to 10:30, we also need volunteers because clients drive up and the food is put into their cars. So, there are lots of ways to be involved and other ways too. Rali and I are both trustees, so if you're interested in volunteering and helping the pantry, bringing your skills, we'd love to have your help. So thank you so much.
We have several ways to get together through the week, including meditation, which takes place every morning at 9 a.m. on Zoom, and you're welcome to join us for that. We do about 10 minutes of check-in and then 20 minutes of meditation, so 9 to 9:30. We also have a Waking Up Whiteness conversation that's going on, and I invite you to join me in that. We will be having it in October, and all of that's on our website. So go to dedhamuu.org for all of our updates and events. Please join us today for Zoom Social Hour at 11 o'clock following worship. We will now begin our morning worship with Walk Beside Me by Matt Meyer, Matt Goldenfield, Helen Bennett, and Greg Butland, and Liz Krunchek.
To Be of Use by Marge Percy. The people I love the best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the sleek black heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud, botched. It smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing, well done, has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil. Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
Please join with me in singing hymn number 9, No Longer Forward Nor Behind, hymn number 9. I'm going to light our chalice this morning in celebration of the Dedham Food Pantry and 30 years of the Dedham Food Pantry, and especially the name of Corinne Lewis. That's only if I can make this lighter work. Okay, there we go. And I want to light our green sanctuary candle for all the ways we strive to be a more sustainable congregation. Please say with me the Unison Affirmation as is printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to serve humanity in love is our covenant with each other and with God. I invite our children forward for our intergenerational message, and we begin by ringing our bell. Grace is going to offer our children's message today.
The Scratched Diamond. There was once a very wealthy king who owned many beautiful things. He had cloth tapestries, piles of gold, and statues made by the very best sculptors in the land. Of all of his belongings, his very favorite possession was the most glorious diamond you can imagine. It was huge, as big around as his hand, and it was pure, clear, and flawless, without any marks or blemishes. He loved to go and sit with that diamond, gazing at its beauty and perfection. One day, when the king went to look at his diamond, he discovered to his horror that it had a long, deep scratch. He couldn't believe his eyes. What could have happened to his flawless diamond? Immediately he sent for all of the best stone cutters and diamond cutters in his kingdom. One by one they came to inspect the diamond. Each looked at it closely, and then sadly shook his head. The scratch was just too deep. If they tried to polish it, they might break the diamond into pieces. The king was heartbroken because he wanted everything to be perfect. The craftsmen gathered around him, trying to appease him, when the one last diamond carver came before the king. He looked at the diamond closely, gazing at it from every angle. Suddenly, he looked up and saw all the other craftsmen around him, and his face broke into a big smile. "I know how we can fix this diamond, Your Majesty," he claimed to the king. "Leave it to all of us. In 2 weeks' time, we will return your diamond to you, better than ever. However, you may not visit us during this time or check on our progress. You must wait until it is finished. Your job is to trust and be patient." The king was very excited as all the carvers walked away with his beautiful diamond. He trusted that soon his flawless diamond would be back with his other lovely things, perfect again, the scratch removed. It took all the king's willpower to resist the temptation to visit the diamond carvers to watch them work. As for the diamond carvers, day after day, night after night, they put their heads together until they thought of a solution collectively. They all brought out their tools to fix that diamond. One had a system of securing the diamond so it would not split, while another had a polish that made the diamond shine ever more beautifully, and still another had the skill to do minute carving in hard surfaces. Bit by bit, they worked on that scratch together. It was slow, tedious work, and they knew it took all of them to get the job done. Finally, the diamond cutters were finished. Carefully, they wrapped the diamond in cloth to protect it, and they brought it before the king. "Here it is, Your Majesty," they chorused. With a flourish, the king opened the cloth and stared at the diamond. The king gasped at what he saw. Where there had once been a scratch, a horrible flaw in his precious diamond, there was now an exquisitely beautiful flower carved into the diamond. Unable to polish the scratch out of the diamond without breaking it, the diamond carvers had worked together and then polished the outside until it gleamed like the sun. They turned the flaw into something beautiful. The king loved his diamond more than ever. Now, when he went to hold it in his hands and gaze upon it, he was reminded that with patience and collaboration, something beautiful and unique can be formed.
I invite you to enter into a time of prayer or meditation, as is your practice. We'll begin by breathing in peace and breathing out love. Breathing in peace and breathing out love. Let us be grateful for all the silences in our lives, for with them we may more completely experience the sound.
The first reading is the third reconstruction, how a moral movement is overcoming the politics of division and fear, by Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II. To understand a moral movement, people who are accustomed to the language of Republican and Democrat, left and right, would have to first learn freedom movement history. You couldn't understand America's deep need for a third reconstruction without studying our history of partial progress, which has been met time and again by immoral acts of deconstruction. In North Carolina, we looked back to the State Constitutional Convention in 1868, following the Civil War, where the Reverends Ashley and Hood, one white and one black, had worked tirelessly to codify the language of fusion politics in our state's primary legal document. Such cooperation could not have been possible if Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman had fought alone for their freedom. They built power throughout the 19th century by working with allies such as Levi Coffin, the white Quaker from Greensboro, North Carolina, who helped to establish the Underground Railroad. Building their movement took decades, but when they finally came to power, they had the necessary language to begin mending the gaps in the fabric of America's democratic experiment. We hold it to be self-evident that all persons are created equal, they wrote in North Carolina's Constitution. Yes, they were two men, but they were men who learned to see new possibilities while singing freedom's song. They couldn't say, as their forefathers had, only that all men are created equal. They looked ahead to a day when their sisters would join them as full citizens of our state and wrote all persons. When we pay attention to this history, a pattern emerges. First, the Redeemers attacked voting rights. Then they attacked public education, labor, fair tax policies, and progressive leaders. Then they took over the state and federal courts, so they could be used to render rulings that would undermine the hope of a new America. This effort culminated in the landmark case Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896, which upheld the constitutionality of state laws requiring segregation of public facilities under the doctrine separate but equal. And then they made sure that certain elements had guns, so they could return the South back to the status quo, according to their deconstructive immoral philosophy. Past is prologue. This history lays out how efforts to stop fusion movements have always consisted of direct acts of deconstruction on these fronts.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round, attend these fasts. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round, attend these fasts. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around attend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the web. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Our second reading this morning is Little Miss Sunshine, written 10 years ago on September 15th by Amy Goodman. It's from the book The Silenced Majority by Amy Goodman and Dennis Moynihan. When First Lady Michelle Obama started an organic garden at the White House, she sparked a national discussion on food, obesity, health, and sustainability. But the green action on the White House lawn hasn't made it to the White House, unfortunately. Back in 1979, President Jimmy...
To the White House roof.
Okay, let me start over.
Yeah.
Starting over. When First Lady Michelle Obama started an organic garden at the White House, she sparked a national discussion on food, obesity, health, and sustainability. But the green action on the White House lawn hasn't made it to the White House roof, unfortunately. Back in 1979, President Jimmy Carter installed solar panels on the roof of the West Wing as part of a new solar strategy. In the year 2000, Carter said, the solar water heater behind me, which is beyond... Sorry. Lula, no. And maybe if we just keep them inside, like, come on. Come on. Inside. Come on, inside. It's like, come out and look at the birds. All right, we're going to start all the way over. Can you delete?
Okay.
Well,
because it all sounded fine.
okay. Okay. Back in 1979, President Jimmy Carter installed solar panels on the roof of the West Wing as part of a new solar strategy. In the year 2000, Carter said, the solar water heater behind me, which is being dedicated today, will still be here supplying cheap, efficient energy. A generation from now, this solar heater can either be a curiosity, a museum piece, an example of the road not taken, or it can be just a small part of one of the greatest and most exciting adventures ever undertaken by the American people. Sadly, after President Ronald Reagan came into office, he had the panels removed, and some of them did end up in museums. Environmentalist Bill McKibben, founder of the group 360.org, told me, "You know where one of these panels is? It's in a private museum of the Chinese entrepreneur who's built the world's largest solar thermal company on Earth. Hemin Solar. They've installed 60 million arrays like this across China. In 1990, the White House panels were retrieved from the government storage and put back into use by Unity College in Maine to make the case for solar. McKibben joined with group of Unity College students asking that it be put back on the roof. The White House declined the offer. President Barack Obama campaigned on the pledge that he would create millions of new green jobs. He hired Van Jones as a White House green job czar, only to fire him shortly after Jones became the target of what he called a vicious smear campaign, which was promulgated by the Fox News channel. Now Obama faces a massive unemployment problem, jeopardizing not only the livelihoods of tens of millions, but the political prospects for the Democrats. Here in Bonn, the answer couldn't be clearer. Use stimulus money and policy to jumpstart the green job sector to help create, for example, solar panel manufacturing, installation, and servicing. Germany, one of the most advanced economies in the world, did just that. I invite you to join with me in singing hymn number 145 in your gray hymnal as Tranquil Streams, hymn number 145. For the last 3 weeks, I've been bagging the produce and dairy for the weekly Saturday distribution of food to clients at the Dedham Food Pantry. As most of you know, the Dedham Food Pantry pre-COVID allowed clients to make their own food choices. However, since the start of the pandemic, bagging food has become a newly added volunteer responsibility. As trustees of the food pantry, Carol and I help out and oversee and fill in whenever needed. And we are only two in a long line of First Church members who have worked with the organization since its inception 30 years ago. It started with the founder, Corinne Lewis, who was inspired by a sermon given by the then minister, Bruce Kennedy. Pam Aist and Janet Hurwitz, Brian and Lynn Rogal, Sharon Lane, Hannah Held, Jack Sennett, Beppy Martin, and others have served as trustees for the food pantry, and even more of you have lent a hand by collecting donations, sorting food, setting up for the holiday food giveaways, and helping out with people who needed to shop at the food pantry. Even a few years ago, Anne Miranda started a previously unimagined program called Fruitful Offerings, which provides cooking lessons and gardening space for food pantry clients. Today is the 30th anniversary of the Dedham Food Pantry's founding. In addition to simply taking a moment to marvel at the number of mouths fed over 30 years, what I want us to consider is the type of collaboration that is necessary for any endeavor to take hold. Amy Goodman's description of Jimmy Carter's solar panels is in the White House is a cautionary tale of how if we don't walk across party lines and all get on board with any new idea, our efforts to change the world will be more like a seesaw than a straight line. We have all heard the adage that progress is 2 steps forward and 1 step back, leaving the impression that progress can be slow and will include setbacks, but the needle continues to move in the desired direction. What I propose today is that when we do not take the time to get all interested and disinterested parties on board with desired change, we won't actually change a thing. We know that when people work together, we can get things done much more quickly and efficiently. Ransom Olds, who Oldsmobile was named after, who first demonstrated the proficiency of the assembly line in automobile production at the start of the Industrial Revolution. I experienced the efficiency of assembly line the last 3 weeks bagging at the Dedham food pantry. The first week I really didn't know what I was doing. When I got there, I found many volunteers who had signed up to help me with the produce, and the dairy bagging had been sent away by the dry goods bagging crew. It took me 3 hours to fill 65 bags of produce and 65 bags of dairy by myself. In the second week, I had 4 volunteers, and it took us only an hour and a half to accomplish the same task. Then this last week, I had 8 volunteers. I counted out all the bags ahead of time, and we set up an assembly line, and we were done and cleaned up within an hour. With planning, organization, communication, and cooperation, most jobs are much more easily done. It is nearly impossible to accomplish any real change by ourselves. These tools of planning, organization, communication, and cooperation are necessary whenever we want to work together for change. When I lived in California, I was surprised by the 200 or more page catalog of referendums that the legislators would send out to voters every election. The legislative poltroons did not seem to want to take any stand without first getting clearance from the voters. Of course, part of the problem is that any voting body is more variegated than a simple up-down vote demonstrates. Perhaps this is why the question of ranked choice voting has been placed before us on our November election. Ranked choice voting allows opinions to be expressed in our voting process more than linear voting allows. The way it would work is that you would go into your voting booth and get to vote for your first, second, and third choice candidates. If a candidate gets 51% of the votes in the first choice voting, the election is over. However, in ranked choice voting, if no one candidate gets 51% of first choice votes, then the second choice votes are tallied and added to the first, so that until one candidate receives 51% or more of the votes and then is declared the winner. Ranked choice voting is a better way of representing the will of the people because it provides for more nuanced shades of choice than simple up-down voting allows. All collaborations must include more nuanced differences of opinion that only come from adding new voices regularly over time, or they will stagnate with little change of leadership or innovation. When I lived in Maine, we had caucus voting. Caucus voting in primary elections added the element of participation. Voters would go in person to local gathering spots such as a church or a gymnasium and cast their votes for candidates by literally standing with those who agreed with them. If no candidate received the full count, conversations would ensue, urging people to consider joining those voting for a different candidate. After time, a winner would emerge, and that is who would get the vote, and everyone felt as if they had a part of the decision. Last week's presidential debate was neither presidential nor a debate. One important ingredient that was missing there, as well as in most political discourse in recent years, is the ability to discuss and even disagree amicably across differences. Finding ways to compromise and even to agree to disagree will help us work together toward common goals better than any us-them, up-down shouting matches ever will. For any endeavor, such as the Dedham Food Pantry, to succeed, it requires first an idea, like that of Reverend Kennedy's, second, a champion, like Corinne Lewis, and third, the gathering together of all those interested to plan, organize, and do whatever work over time to make the original idea manifest. However, for an institution to last beyond its founding, to live for 30 years or more, it requires changes in leadership and innovative ideas that only come by adding more voices and more perspectives over time. In fact, without widening the circle to include disparate voices over years and years, even institutions as old as our church will die of attrition that is born out of the stagnation of ideas. Just as our centering thought points out, when we make unilateral decisions and do things ourselves, we may make quick progress, but our success will be fleeting. When we educate and develop new ways of collaborating across differences, we are much more likely to dismantle the systems of oppression that keep us all on the seesaw of change and create lasting, better world for all. Let us celebrate this important 30th anniversary of the founding of the Dedham Food Pantry by recognizing all efforts to heal our planet will require people submerged in the task, working across all differences to transform our world with our care. Please join with me in hymn number 121, We'll Build the Land. Now let us fix our steps, so we stagger not in the uneven motions of this world, but go steadily on our way, neither censuring our journey by the weather we meet, or turning aside from anything that might befall us. Amen. Please join me for Zoom Social Hour.